Hi everybody. My name's Peter. I am a Syracuse graduate from 2019. I was in the VPA film department, and also in the animation department as a minor. Um, so I was very similarly kind of where I don't know how many of you are currently in college, how many of you have are graduated, how many of you are in graduate programs, but I can guarantee we've all been at the similar points before of sitting and figuring out, how am I going to get into this industry? So I will talk a little bit about my experience of what post-grad life was, and what, kind of that path was of, figuring out how I set up somewhere, and how it's not a very clear path, and that is okay. I really want to iterate that because there is no perfect path of getting into, whatever you want to do. So I'm also from Central New York originally. I'm from Cortland, New York, if anyone knows it. And yes, I graduated in 2019. So when I graduated, I worked in live action, and I also started my own production company, Phantasma House, which is a genre film kind of like uh, specifically focused thing. But that was a great place for me to just have a banner for all the personal work that I was doing, which is really important for building out your own portfolio. So yeah, as I was mentioning, when getting into this industry, the road is very rarely a straight line, and that is very much okay. Um, so high school and college, I had, a big passion for film, videography, editing. I was, probably like a lot of you, I was experimenting with all of these different kinds of mediums of how to do media and entertainment. Um, and then I went to Syracuse, and like I said, I graduated in 2018, and then so. Post grad, I don't know if anyone knows American High. That's a production company in Syracuse that a lot of us like we're all getting our internship right out of. So I wanted to be doing something. I ended up doing lighting for about 3 years right out of college. So I was running grip and electric, and working generally in production, but I definitely brought a mentality of an everyman mentality. Like, tell me what to do, and I will figure out how to do it, which I think is a very, very important kind of mindset if you're trying to, be flexible and work within the industry. I also worked, as I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with, in the content space, which is right out of college for a while as well. When I wasn't on set, I was also working in social media and creating marketing graphics. And that's like, I feel like such a quintessential stepping stone for anybody that's in the media space and trying to make it is you're gonna definitely work in the content space. And it's a huge part of it. I also worked in post-production as well for a bit. But very, very much all freelance for all of this. And I would do one thing, segue to another. I would meet a lot of people that way. And yeah, so like it was just a lot of figuring out things on my own and being flexible with it. And then, as I said, when I graduated around 2020, I founded my own production company, which I work directing short films and music videos. That's kind of like my side passion and hobby. But I've gone to film festivals, I've raised, money. I've worked as a producer. So all that said, I finally reached a point where I landed the role of production assistant on SpongeBob SquarePants through a combination of preparedness and luck. And I want to talk about the moment I got the opportunity of this. It was kind of surreal, and I think it really captures how a lot of things work in the industry. Um, so there's a phrase a lot of people hear sometimes in the film or media space, which is don't wait for the cavalry to come. You don't wait for somebody to say you have permission to go out and make your art. You gotta love doing it, and you have to, find the joy in doing it. So there's the idea of when the door of opportunity opens, you need to have already done the work to walk through it. Um, so kind of like specifically remembering of when I got the job for SpongeBob, I had moved back to LA in 2022 after COVID. And I was about 3 months looking for a job. And I was literally starting my training at AMC the day when I got an email saying, "Hey, would you like to interview for the role of SpongeBob?" Um, What had happened was my wife, Justina, who's also in the industry, we had met with the recruitment at Nickelodeon. The recruiter, her name was Jana, and she said, "Hey, would you possibly throw my husband's resume in there just in case there's ever an opportunity that happens?" Um, so yeah, I got the email saying, "Would you like to interview for SpongeBob?" That was an obvious no-brainer of, "Hell yes, I'm going to do that." But what was really interesting is what I learned after I got the job was what had happened was the PA before me had done such a bad job that they were fired and they needed to immediately replace somebody. And I happened to have given my resume to a recruiter on that week, and so my resume happened to be at the top of three. That really demonstrates, and I want you all to understand the there is an element of luck that happens when it comes to the opportunities. But because of all the years beforehand of, creating my own work, creating, directing, music videos, all my post work, and all the stuff that I had built for myself, I think made me really stand out as a candidate. And that just really demonstrated to me a moment is that, like, yes, when opportunity arrives, you need to have already loaded everything and be prepared to do it. So an important thing I would say is if you are an artist trying to get into this, is build your portfolio now. Just create work constantly, even without if you're not being paid to do it. That is the most important thing. You really in your portfolio are the proof of concept of yourself. Start building the day and find the joy in doing it. Again, be proactive, learn about the industry, talk to a lot of people. This is an industry of people. It's a very networked industry, so it is like who you're working with, who you're collaborating with, those become your peers for life. And really do view that every role is a stepping stone because I can tell you I learned something from everything from learning lighting. It just like you get good soft skills from that. But yeah, that's kind of my little talk about just like how I got to this place and how it was not a very clear path when I was right out of college because I mean it was such a zigzag, and it is totally okay to have that. I just want to really let everyone know. Um, but now, so SpongeBob. So I'm gonna go through what the production pipeline looks like in SpongeBob so you can understand every single element of how an episode is made. It usually takes about 9 months per episode. Also, I said I had the chat open and I didn't. I want to make sure nobody's asking any important question. Okay,
You're
cool.
good.
I see Tom. That's always good. It's always good to see Tom again. He is from Syracuse, New York, in case anybody does not know that, and he is a very big fan of Syracuse, and Central New York. He really represents it. So cool guy. But yes, as for SpongeBob, so the it's about a 9 month period for one 10-minute episode of SpongeBob. And we're doing all of these at the same time. So like one week we're doing a script while we're breaking down and designing another one. So the stage though that typically an entire episode from all the way from pre-production to delivering it to network is we'll script it in the writer's room with the writers, and then it'll go to a storyboard artist who will roughly kind of beat it out. And then in the voice records, everybody will give their appropriate voice to it, voice the characters, and at which point that'll be overlaid into an animatic. We are a very animatic heavy show. We really rely on it to convey a lot of the animation to our vendor. And I do want to mention that we do use a vendor for all of our animation. We have since 1999. It's been the same one, Rough Draft Studios in Korea. But yeah, after the animatic is locked and we know everything's there, we design everything. So we design all the props that every character interacts with, every character that's new, although we obviously have a wealth of previously designed characters from over 25 years. So a lot of that will be pulling old stuff too. Every background is designed, and effects is the fourth category, which is anything that's gaseous or liquid is how I always actually try and remember it because it is sometimes hard to define what an effects is. After all this is done in the black and white, we'll move on to color and paint. So like I mentioned this earlier, I don't know how many people are on, but we are one of the few studios that still hand paints all our backgrounds with oil painting, which I think gives it a really special look. But then on top of that, it'll also go to our color stylist who will give the appropriate coloring to each new character, and then also, confirm that continuity is matching up with all our favorites that we see regularly. Once everything is there, we'll deliver it to the vendor, and it'll be about 4 months of animation by them, at which point it'll come back to post-production, and finally we'll go to network delivery. So I'm going to share a few things. So first, I want to talk about the script stage. So the script stage is we have a traditional writer's room. There's about 6 writers. They will meet once a, have 2 to 3 writing meetings a week. And they will kind of all together beat the story out together. They'll be bouncing off each other and giving ideas, and it'll go through 3 drafts and then a board draft. And Shayna, I'm gonna go ahead and share my first thing to show you record. So yes, we'll take it to a storyboard artist after this stage, and they'll go through every single action. It's about 1,000 panels by the end of it. Um, I can tell you one of the most difficult jobs I have as a PA is there's something called conforming the hard lock. So once the animatic, which I'm assuming a few people here are familiar with an animatic, that's when we time it up to music and the reference audio. I will have to go through the storyboard file and the animatic, and I will have to make sure that every one of those 1,000 panels is exactly 1 to 1 and change any that do not match in the storyboard file, which that is a very long process to do. But anyway, um, so yeah, this will get plussed up 3 times. We'll have a rough board, a clean board, and then a final board. And after the board process is done, at least the rough board, it will go into the voice records. So the way the voice records work is all the voice actors are in a booth together. Sometimes it'll be the full group. Sometimes they'll isolate it and do one by one. But what we'll do is we'll put the storyboard up on a big screen for them, and they will act out the animation to the storyboard that we have going, um, which is fun. It's a good group of people, as you would imagine. They've been at it for a very long time, so it is pretty cool to see them when they do it all together. They have the same chemistry, and they all act like they are like 19. It's pretty funny. Um, so yeah, once we have the voice records done and we have a storyboard, we're gonna bring it to an animatic editor who's going to edit it into an animatic. So the boards will be cut into a Premiere file, and it will give a sense of pacing and episode runtime, and then that will go to the network, which is we'll go through any reviews. We have something called S&P, which is standards and practice. So if they say, hey, you can't throw that kid through that like garbage disposal, they will pull that out. But yeah, so here I'm gonna show, the difference of what an animatic looks like, and then uh
There's a question from Raina.
yes, let's see. What is the benefit of going through voiceover records before making the animatic instead of the other way around? So a really good example is whenever we do voice records, there's an A take, a B take, and a C take. And I can tell you by the time the C take rolls around, Tom Kenny is doing whatever. He is totally, spitballing, making new ideas, improvising things that are not in the original script or storyboard. And if we get anything that matches up even better than that, it will be revised one more time. So we want to kind of have the voiceover just to understand everything that's going to be going on in the final version of the animatic.
Thank
Uh,
you.
yeah, of course, yeah. Cool. So yeah, at the animatic stage, once that's finally locked and we know exactly what the episode that we want to make is and that we know we're going to send to the network, we move on to the design stage. So we will work with all the different departments. I mentioned all the ones there, those background/layout, there's character, and then we have a prop and effects designer. So character designers will build new model sheets for any new characters that come into it. And a big part of my job is going into the archive and the catalog of what we already have and then seeing if it works and, running back and forth with the director. Otherwise, we'll make new stuff. The prop designer will create everything the characters interact with, and the background layouts will create any new environments that are called out. And then, so we do it all in black and white first, just to get the line work. So the first focus is all the line work, and then it will move on to the color and paint stage. where our color stylist will go through all the characters, props, effects, and make sure that it fits within the continuity of what SpongeBob's world looks like. And then our paint team will oil paint all the new layouts. Yeah, and then it will be all run through by the director. And then here I will show one last clip of a final one, and then I'll show you what the designs look like for that episode. Where all the designs are completed and colored and approved by the directors and the showrunners. We will ship them over to the vendor. And that's a big packaging up. We got to make sure nothing gets lost. But it'll be in animation with them for probably about 3 to 4 months. At which point they will start sending stuff back to us. They'll send, a bunch of different takes, is what we call them. So we'll enter the post-production stage, which is just, final color correction and ensuring there are no errors with the vendor. Otherwise, we do something called retakes, which is where if there's like somebody's arm is missing in a shot, we're like, well, that's not supposed to be there. We'll call that out, and then we will have them reanimate it and send it over again. We also finalize any ADR, though we will do ADR on the show definitely, to sub in any missing voices or sound effects or lines that we want read different, and we'll add in the music. And then we have another very cool department called the SUDS department, which is, I don't know if anyone's familiar with just like those live action elements that you see in cartoons or specifically in SpongeBob, if you have like a live action photo of someone animating, we have a whole in-house department from that. He's from Rochester, actually. So yeah, so that's like a pretty cool one as well. And then once all of that is there, we deliver it to network. And then it's on to the next one. And like I said, we're doing multiple at the same time. So like at one week I'm prepping all the script materials, or I'm sorry, one day I'm prepping all the script materials for the storyboard artists to get them started on this, and then the next day I'm like packaging up and sending all the materials to our vendor. So it's like a very, very big machine with lots of moving parts. But yeah, it's a really cool pipeline. And the best part I will say about being a PA is you have such great overhead view of everything here. You get to see how every department, how every kind of person on the show interacts with each other and what they do, which is really, really cool and informative. Yeah, so this is just a little bit about like my day to day, which is a lot of my mornings are spent reviewing all the designs. So I'm sure some people are familiar with ShotGrid, which is what we use for uploading all of our designs to be reviewed by the directors and the showrunners. So a big part of my day is looking through that and seeing, what notes were given and what I need to relay to artists. As I was saying before, you're the link between writers, storyboard artists, painters, directors, producers, and it gives you very invaluable overhead view of a show. So if you are in a position like this, really try and just be a fly on the wall as much as you can, because that is the most invaluable way to learn. Um, like I said, a lot of it is managing and tracking all of these assets that are going back and forth. And as I said, we also have 25 years of archived material. So a lot of time is spent in the archive pulling stuff out that would be, usable for an episode. Um, as I said, no 2 days are the same. This week, the early week was very, very light because we're waiting for an animatic that's going to come tomorrow. And I know once that comes tomorrow, I'm going to have to go through those 1,000 panels and we're going to have to launch all the designers by the end of the week. So it really, really varies, especially because of the timeline. And building relationships, which it is important that the entertainment industry is a business of people. Who you work with is your network for life. I'm hoping some of you are all working together. It's really invaluable. So just be reliable, show up, and be the person that people want to work with and have fun. We're not saving lives. We're making cartoons here. I think it's sometimes important to remember that what we do is fun. It is play. So, um, yeah, how am I doing on time? Yeah. And then yeah, so just kind of really rounding it up again. I do really want to emphasize the path in any artistic career is never straight, and every detour is going to teach you something. So just allow that to happen and feel comfortable with that. Make sure to build your portfolio before anyone asks for it. You do not need permission. And it is the most valuable thing. It's really how you sell yourself in this industry. Animation, like anything, is a team sport, so your ability to collaborate and support people around you matters just as much as how good of you are as a creative. And just be reliable. Showing up and following through opens up more doors than any single skill ever will. I think that's really good advice there as well. But yeah, so that is my scripted part of the presentation to give you a little bit, but I'm happy to kind of talk through stuff with you guys now.
There are some questions in the chat. So
Let's go through that too. Yeah, sorry, I said I had the chat and then I was there we go. We got the gross outs. Okay, yeah, we have a lot of good stuff in here.
I'm going to stop your share.
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
stopping as well. How often do you have to worry about retakes and does it affect the production of process a lot? It's not a huge worry. It's a huge worry if you go to take four and they're still having problems and you have to get it to network by a certain time. But usually they're usually like really small. It's like, please color Squidward's not colored on his foot here. Please make sure that you provide a color model that has that. Please revise the storyboard so this, layer isn't in front of the wrong layer. So usually they're pretty quick edits and it doesn't super impact us, but there are definitely episodes. There was one a week or two ago that was like at least like 20 retakes. That was a lot. Chakran. Can you talk about your processes when you mix media in episodes? I notice a lot of SpongeBob has real life footage and 3D sometimes. That's right. There's I don't know if people know, there's this few spin-offs of SpongeBob. So there's the Patrick Star Show, which a bunch of cool people, they do all their backgrounds on watercolor, which I think is really cool. It has a really cool style. And then we also had Camp Coral, which was a fully 3D show that ran for 2 seasons as well. So it is interesting. We've also do a lot of stop motion, especially for any holiday specials. Sadly, Camp Coral is no longer going. That wrapped up about 2 years ago. Maybe less, maybe like a year and a half ago. There's a chance they'll bring it back, but we keep doing like specials in regular SpongeBob that kind of allude to it. Um, but yeah, we also, like I was mentioning, we work with stop motion vendors, which is like my favorite one because it has such a good look. But every time we do a Christmas or Halloween special, that's always really cool. So in terms of the process though, 2D usually goes first, and then if you're doing 3D, you're definitely going to comp over it. You're talking about Can you talk about what the process looks like for episodes featuring original songs? I know a lot of the bigger and more well-known SpongeBob songs are from earlier seasons, but yeah, we have a resident. The writers write the songs, like the lyrics of them, funnily enough, but we do have a resident musician who will create all the scores for it, and he'll sit on the records and help direct. Tom Kenny, the voice of SpongeBob, is our voice records director as well. So not only is he doing the voice, but he's also directing everyone else. But yeah, we have somebody who specifically does like create all the music. I can tell you the musical episodes are definitely some of the toughest ones because there's a lot of panels, there's a lot of like lyrics to keep track of, there's a lot of takes that go through it. Um,
The one I told you was
I'm not sure if that was a question. Are many people from the beginning still working there? Yeah. Our colorist stylist, Teal. It's funny. I think it's so funny that the name of our colorist stylist is Teal, the name of a color. Yeah, she has been there. She jokes that she's been dressing SpongeBob for 25 years because she's the final one that puts the colors on him. So she dresses SpongeBob. A lot of the storyboard artists have been there since the beginning. So that's always really cool because like if you ever like think of an old classic SpongeBob episode and you're like, I wonder who did that gag, you can like meet the original board artists who did do it. Obviously all the voice actors have stayed. They're, big part of it as well. Yeah, but a lot of the original team is still there. Sadly, Steve Hillenburg passed away, I believe, in 2018. So now it is show run by Vincent Waller and Mark Cesarelli. I think they came from Ren and Stimpy, but they still all go back with each other to that, old school Nickelodeon time. Um, With the show going on so long, has there been moments where you guys have wanted to add characters or locations as a permanent ad? I mean, I think that definitely has happened. I'm not enough on the writing team to fully know the continuity of all of them, but I know there's some like definitely returning like new characters that they will definitely add in. There's one called Narline and Nabi, and they are I don't know, they're like these elf creatures. There's whole they definitely keep expanding upon it though and do trying out new things. I'm sorry, I can't see everyone's hand raised too. If
I think
Connor, do you want
Evelyn
to? Oh,
had
sorry,
one
Evelyn. Go for
first.
it. Yeah, go for it, Evelyn. I
Or
can't see
had-
everybody's. Let me switch to.
Um, yeah, thank you. I remember seeing in the documentary from the 90s that like when they shipped these animatics like for a lot of shows at that time out overseas, they would always like be very concerned because they'd come back kind of in rough like shape. And I remember them saying they were worried that like they would come back and their eyes would be melting or something. And you can kind of see that in the old animation with the characters kind of being like changing shape or being
Yeah, kind
not
of.
quite consistent. Is that
Yeah,
still a problem today or is that
wibbly
gone?
wobbly. I will say the greatest thing about doing it now is we are not physically mailing designs there. So back then, what they actually did was you were going to a copier and you were physically mailing mail packets to your vendor for them to follow it. So I could definitely see how in that process, like things could get lost in translation or transmuted or get weird. We send everything in Adobe Acrobat. It's great. It's nice. So I think that everything definitely has a cleaner look because of that. But back when you were doing everything physically, I think it was a lot easier to get that kind of like nice wear and tear to it. But
Right, thank you so much.
yeah, Connor, I saw your hand up as well.
Hey, thanks. Um, my timeline might be getting a little mixed up here, but I know they did a lot of feature films for SpongeBob in the
Hmm.
recent
Oh yeah,
past.
especially lately. Yeah.
Did you have a hand in those?
Um, I am really proud, and don't tell anyone this, but for the most recent one, the search for SquarePants, I did not do anything on it, but I am on IMDb credited as a PA on it, I think because they gave all the episodics. So I appreciate that. But no, I haven't worked directly on any of the features, but I know a few people who do. A lot of the modern ones now, they really shift, but it's through Paramount Animation actually. It's not done in-house at Nickelodeon. And Netflix also did one as well. But I know the past like 5 years, I think there's been like two or three movies. They've been doing side ones. They did one for Plankton that was on Netflix. I think they're trying to give everyone their own movie at some point.
Yeah, cool, thanks.
Yeah. I see one in the chat. I'm gonna read it through. How do you deal with the stress? That's a good question. I mean, that's like a general, like, good question for anyone of what your way to de-stress is. Um, I mean, I will say, fortunately, I don't think this job is like hyper stressful. I think there are definitely jobs out there that are much more stressful, but I don't know, hang out with your friends, like all the good things that I think anyone will tell you. Aside from the main cast, is there any interplay between who works on the television productions and who works on the features? Yeah, the showrunners, the people at the higher ups, the executives, the creative directors. Derek Dryman, I'm not at liberty fully because like I don't know the full history, but Derek Dryman's an original that's been there for a long time, and he's pretty involved with the features. So there's like, yeah, definitely the showrunners on SpongeBob are coordinating quite a bit of all the different media that's coming out of it.
Bryson has a question.
Cool. I'll give Bryson, I'll keep going back to the chat.
Yeah, first of all, like love the presentation. Like thank you for doing this. But like she mentioned at the beginning, like this is kind of something that I'm stepping into of like creating my own animated show. And
Hmm.
so I guess like I wouldn't even say I'm an animator, but I'm definitely like the story, like the writer
Yeah.
part of it. So I guess like what does that look like in terms of the people that you work with every day? Like how involved are they with I guess the final edits of like the animation. Like, is there ever a point where it's like,
Yeah, like the writers, like how much are the writers in? Yeah, so what you're saying is you're on the definitely the development side and the creative development side. And then was your question like how involved the writers are with like the back end, or is it like the writers pass the script off and then what
Yeah,
happens? I will
yeah,
say because of the scale of our show, a lot of the times it is like once that draft leaves the writer's hands and goes to the storyboard artist, the storyboard artist has a total liberty to add any gags or to punch it up however they see fit. And then once it goes to the supervising director, which is like one step above that, they will kind of try and balance everything out. So it is like a little bit of like letting go and seeing what will happen. But I mean, I will say all the writers are like very creative, so they will like voice act in it too. So they will come in, they'll help give some like, line delivery to Tom, but it's also like hard to tell Tom Kenny how to direct. So Um, how do you guys keep up with how many characters there are on this show? Fortunately, the archive is really, really good. There's a in the I feel it's actually so bad. The second to last intern that we had, their summer task was they had to go through every single character that was made over the 25 years, and they had to put them all. We have this. It is very helpful now, but it's this big banner with every single character that was ever on SpongeBob. But that is how we keep track of it is interns. Um, do you have a favorite episode you got to work on, contribute to? I will say a lot of those episodes I was sharing were kind of personally my favorites that I worked on. They were all written by my friend Danny as well, so I might be slightly partial because of that. But a lot of them were callbacks. I like Weenie Hut Jr. I think it's really funny. So it was funny for me to see the Weenie Hut Senior and like the backstory of that. It was also very fun for the 25th anniversary. We did something called Creepaway Camp, which was they all go to the old abandoned Camp Coral that had gotten canceled, and it turns into a slasher movie, which was very fun. I'm a big horror fan, so that was like pretty fun to work on. Um, Here, I'll see. Keep going. Do you ever want to change to a different show? Does it get boring working on the same show? I will say I've been at this position for 3 years, and I don't want to say I'm open to work. The industry is like you do feel very like valuable when you have it, but I could see myself even segueing out of animation someday. I could see myself going back to live action. I like that feeling of changing it up drastically every 5 years. And I like the zigzagging and just like variety is the spice of life. So I could definitely see myself doing that. But I would not say that it ever gets boring working on the show. It's a very fun environment. And like the people really make the show, I would say. Like it's a huge, great, great community that works on SpongeBob. I'm checking if nobody else is raising hands. Can you talk about Phantasma House, the freelance one that you had before? I want to build more by freelance, and it looks like your that helps get to its point. Yeah, I mean, so the origins of just like starting a production company was I was doing all these short films. I was building my portfolio, like I was saying, of like build the work, don't wait for somebody else to tell you to go work, make your music video, make your short film, make your advertising. So it just literally came down to like I want to have a banner and show that I'm a self-starter. So I went out, I got $15,000 from the New York State Council for the Arts. So like it's was really good from a producing standpoint to turn it into more of an organization, especially with because I was working with so many collaborators. Um, but I mean, yeah, it's I guess this might be I don't know if this is good advice, but just go out and build it. It is the barrier to entry, especially with like video production, is the most open it's ever been. Um, Shout out Fred. Fred's actual name is Incidental 001. We keep all those background fish that say different things. They're all called incidentals, and there are about 200 of them. But he is the first one. He is the number one incidental. Um, is there an acknowledgement on the production side of tonal and visual changes from like that original first three seasons? And yes, yeah, there absolutely is. SpongeBob's model has been adjusted and adapted to modern times, obviously. But I will say There was a point, a special that we did this last season where it was basically a clip show, but they all went back to the old classic episodes and they slightly changed it, where just something different. So they did Rock Bottom, they did the pilot, they did the fry cook games, I think. And then, but what we were doing is we were using the old SpongeBob style and the old coloring. So they tried to like play with that. But there's definitely an acknowledgement, and we know that, as we've entered the digital animation era, especially, that it's changed. 15K from who? I don't know what 15K from who means. How is the environment in the studio? Did you always feel comfortable, or did you have to build up confidence talking to people and finding your own place? Also, what advice would you give me to feel more comfortable at such a job? I definitely did, entering that stage feel uncomfortable. And I will say, working in the animation industry, animation people are very shy people. They all want to be, just stay in on their Wacom, and they just want to be doodling. But I guess the philosophy, and I've told this to a lot of people that really helped me come out of my shell, is if you kind of realize that I think everyone's just as nervous as you are when in these like kind of interactions, if you understand that they're kind of at the same level of you, I feel like it takes back a lot of the like pressure that you would feel. And working in comedy, how do you judge what is funny? The first one is if you laugh. That's a good one. I'm gonna throw myself under the bus here. Sometimes find classic SpongeBob jokes annoying. How do you know when they're going to work? A good way to do it is they'll do the scratch, and like the writers will do a table read. I don't know. I haven't spent too much time in the writers' room to fully know their process of like when they land that okay, this is the gag that we are going to use. Um, how do you do it? Sometimes on classes, how do you know when they're going to work? I mean, that's the other thing is you also don't know. It is like a risk. But it is vetted by like a group of 8 writers. I guess that's my answer. And if it's good enough for them to laugh, it's good enough for us to animate over, I guess. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And the 15K for that. Yes. What was the process like getting funding from the New York State Council for the Arts? Were there certain prerequisites that you had to fulfill? First and foremost, I was a New York State resident. That was a big one. And I applied. Yeah, I applied. It was for a horror film. It was for a like kind of folk horror film about identical twin brothers that live in a remote farmhouse. And I shot it in 2022, and I came back right before SpongeBob actually. But yeah, the process for that was a very big pitch deck. So if you're ever gonna go out and seek funding for a project, have a really snazzy pitch deck, because that'll grab people. Um, and yeah, I'm not sure what else to say. It was the pitch deck was a big part of it. Yeah, I got a lot of questions, so I'm just gonna keep going if that's all right. How do you think the work culture at animated shows for kids compares to a show for adolescent adults? I will say we're like kind of cheeky at least. We're like kind of for adolescents somewhat too. Like SpongeBob isn't like fully. We're not on Baby Shark at least. So like everyone here is like at least got like an adult sense of humor. And then I haven't worked, I guess, on enough adult shows to like really make a comparison for like what the work culture difference is like. But I will say it's a very fun and creative place. How do you keep growing professionally when your schedule's so full? Does networking look completely different from you? That is a very good question, and one of the things I'm thinking of this month, which is like, because I'm full-time this, but I'm directing a music video next month. I'm doing post projects on the side. And yeah, how you keep going professionally is just like find the love in doing it, which can be hard sometimes. It's like one of the most difficult things as a creative or an artist is going back and doing it even when you're not feeling creative or like you want to do it. That is like a really key skill. So just like trying to reset to yourself and find joy in like why you originally wanted to do all these things. Um, and then as for networking, I will say thankfully, I'm not at the hunting point right now, like versus when I was trying to get on the show. So like networking is much more like peers that I'm working with that know each other and like what comes up through work, which like I will say is a lot nicer than having to do cold calls because I was never a very good cold caller. I'll be able to be exhausting. Good night, Ryan. We dropped the film link. Sure, I'll post it at some point. Solid. Yeah, I think. Are there any other questions anyone has? Anything I can touch on that helps?
Yeah, actually, I had, one question about the animatic and vendor process.
Sure.
So it looks like at least the animatic you showed was essentially like rough keyed animation and
Hmm.
sent out to the vendor. The process, and you said you get kind of passes or drafts back. I mean, what sort of do you get like a rough pencil test of like each shot, or how does that look?
Yeah, so pencil tests are usually only by request by the director. So
Hmm.
if they're unsure of how, fortunately, we've had a long working relationship with this vendor for 25 years that we like usually feel pretty comfortable with how they're going to handle stuff. But if there's anything that's like this seems like a lot's going on. There's fire. There's all these things going on. The director will require either a pencil test for black and white, or I can't remember. I think it's called a wedge test, and a wedge test is to see how all the colors are interacting.
Gotcha.
So that's usually how it works. But yeah, we have a good working rapport with the vendor, so we kind of have faith that they're going to do what they've been doing since 1999 too.
Cool. Thanks.
Have there been times where you guys had to remove content because of censorship? This is a fun question. I'm excited for this one. How does it affect your process of an episode moving forward, or do they remove content after the episode is mostly made? No, anything that is going to be removed is removed very, very early. So the storyboard and the animatic could go to again, we have something called S&P, which is standards and practices, which is basically our censor. Um, and yes, I can tell you, we've definitely tried to push things and haven't pulled back. I think I've mentioned this. I'm a big horror fan. For there was an episode that they were doing a Shining reference for, and I don't know how well people know the movie, but they were doing the tuxedo man and the bear in a corner. And they were like, you can absolutely not do that. And the directors tried to push it back. They'll push back against it. And they're like, there's no implication with that. So what they ended up doing was they subbed it out for the twins from The Shining, but that was the one I was most disappointed for, that they cut. But yes, yeah. If there's anything extremely violent, that usually will get cut. But they still slip a lot past. I'm impressed with the show, Tom. Well, I've seen characters flayed. I've seen people burned alive. I've seen a lot of they let a lot through, which is cool. Are there workarounds? Oh, yeah. Is that for like, yeah, for censorship? I mean, it's usually, yeah. So the censor will come with like a recommendation of how to handle it, which is like an example is we're doing a Christmas special right now, and Santa Claus makes a sultry video for Mrs. Claus of him chopping wood in like suspenders and just like that's it. And they were like, "Can we please add a tank top on?" And then they're like, "Okay, we'll add a tank top on." So yeah, there's workarounds that we'll have to adjust to meet for them.
Bryson's got a question.
Oh yeah, I had one more question.
Yeah.
But so I know that like in the past you guys had like the Nick Writers workshop, the Nick Writers like fellowship, or whatever, like the internship thing.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then I know that y'all like didn't do it this past year. So like how do y'all go about like finding interns for just like yeah, like interns
Yeah,
in
what that
general?
process is. Yeah, so there's both the internship program and there's a fellowship also, which is what you mentioned, which is usually that fellowship will be for storyboard artists or for designers. So if you're a 2D designer, that is publicly available, and I could even send that resource to Shayna if anyone wants it, of how to get onto that. I don't remember exactly how the internship, I think it just opens standardly like anything else. But yeah, so I don't know if that fully answers your question, but like if you can have a coffee or like a Zoom call with anyone that is like, associated with Nickelodeon or towards there and they can put it in, that is a help. But it is a great way. A lot of the other production people, at least on my team, I know at least three of them were interns before this, so I'm actually in the minority of like coming from not from an internship. So
Since it is approaching 9, do you want to put either a way to contact you if it's LinkedIn or
absolutely, yeah.
socials or
Here, I will
whatever you
put it
like,
out.
just in
Yes,
case
no
people have to
worries.
leave?
Yep. I'll throw out my email as well in case anyone wants to. Please feel free to reach out. Um, LinkedIn is just my name.
And I don't know if you caught up on all the
Yeah, I'm
questions.
looking through. How does social media and the public impact the show and episode direction of the audience hates? I can tell you again, one of my close friends is one of the writers on the show. And he has definitely gotten a lot of hate messages on Twitter. Like people will do that. He had to go private. He like had to fully lock down because a lot of people were so upset that SpongeBob was so different, and it being one of the new writers, he was like, "Well, clearly this is all your fault." The audience hates an episode or a character or direction. Does that affect anything? He sleeps well at night. I don't know how much it really impacts it. They're definitely receptive, but they're doing their own thing too. The rules can a child do so versus this is good. I don't have the tools. Yes, that is a good synopsis of how a lot of our censorship works. Um, yeah, I think that's it. Were there any other last questions anyone had?
Think maybe a last question could be like, since you worked in live action and in post and in animation and all this kind of stuff, do you want to talk about work-life balance of
Yes,
that
sure. Yeah,
for a
absolutely.
sec?
Which I mean, for me, it's easy. Probably after this as well. I have to do other stuff after this, but I listen to your body. I guess that's all I can say is if you need to take a nap, please take a nap. Please go to bed early. Please go to bed at 8 p.m. if it feels like it. Just get in tune with that, and yeah, I guess that's my advice. Just like listen. Yeah,
Just
listen to your natural
animation is
feelings.
known for being
Yeah.
less demanding work hours, that it's friendlier. So
Well,
I
yes.
didn't,
Yeah, I will
so
say I
maybe talk
left
about
live
that.
action. Yeah, the reason I left live action was because I had reached a point where it was too demanding. Like I was not having fun being on my feet for 12 hours a day on set, lifting heavy lights and stuff like that. Which is why I segued into animation and was like, this is a much more comfortable way to explore the arts. Um, so yeah, just make sure to stick up for yourself. And it's good to be in a union. Get in a union if you can.
Are you in a union?
I am. I am in the Animation Guild, yes, which is part of IATSE, which is the overall one. So that is new for production. That's only within the last 3 years. Before it used to be only artists in animation, so designers and layouts. The production people were never in union, at least at Nickelodeon. But over the last 3 years, a lot of production has been unionizing, which is really cool to see. Um, so it's always good.
I'm going to do a thank you for coming.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you
And
so much.
then
Yeah,
if
of course.
anyone wants to ask anything after the recording, I'm going to shut it off.
That's
So,
good. But
thank
thank you,
you.
everyone, as well. I hope something from this. I hope something sticks. So.